Hello friends, welcome to another episode of Killingly Public Library's craft videos. Today we're going to make a wooden hat, just a craft to stick on a bookshelf or, on a stand you maybe have somewhere, just to decorate a little bit for winter. We're going to start by taking a piece of wood. Now I was fortunate enough to have someone make these for me, so I didn't have to purchase them, but perhaps you need to go out and buy a piece of wood for this craft, and a half a circle will work fine. It doesn't have to be the same shape as mine, but something hat type shape, a winter cap kind of a hat, something somebody might knit or whatever, or get creative and make some other version. But I'm going to just Mod Podge on some paper. And my paper is just kind of a light purple with some little dots on it. You could use a plaid, you could use a plain piece of paper, you could paint it, anything you want. I just really liked the color of the paper, so I wanted to go with that. My paper is 6 by 6, but my piece of wood is larger, and that's okay. I'm going to line it up at the top as best I can and not worry about the bottom, because I'm going to take some yarn and wrap that around the bottom at the end anyway. That was my intention, so it doesn't matter to me that the paper doesn't go all the way down. But if you care about your project in a different way, then find some different paper. But this is what I had to work with. So I'm just going to put the Mod Podge on the wood. So my Mod Podge is on my wood, not that you can probably see it. I'm going to lay my paper on top of the Mod Podge. And I just want it to come up to the top. There. And I put a little too much at the bottom, but that's okay. It'll dry and the yarn's going to cover it. But we're going to put that down like so, and we're going to let this dry, and then I'm going to sand it, and then I will cover with the second coat of Mod Podge. Okay, put that aside and let it dry. Now we're going to focus on a pom-pom for the top of our hat, because winter hats have pom-poms, right? I mean, maybe not all of them, but it just still dress it up a little. It'll be really nice. If you don't want a pom-pom, don't add it. And maybe you wanted your wood stained instead of painted or papered. I mean, do all kinds of things. Whatever creativity you can unleash, go for it. So I'm just going to show how I'm going to make my pom-pom, first using a piece of paper, just a scrap paper, and I'm going to take some kind of container, can, jar, anything, and trace a circle. This particular container I'm using happens to be 3.5 inches across, but whatever size you have works fine. Now I'm just tracing this on paper for the example, but ideally cardboard or like cereal box kind of cardboard, anything that has a little more sturdiness to it, a little more durability than a piece of paper. And so I have a circle there. You probably can't see it, so let's cut out the circle just so you can see it better. All right, so I have a circle. Now I am going to take another small item and put it in the middle and trace that as well. And I'm going to use the K-cup. I'm just going to put, I guess I'll use the wider part of the K-cup, but it doesn't matter. A quarter, you could stick a quarter in the middle. Well, I'll just tip it upside down and use the bottom. Just for an example here, just so you can see what I'm doing. All right, so now I've traced a circle in the middle. So it would look like a tire or a donut, something along those lines. And I'm just gonna snip right to the center and cut out my circle. So there is my circle with the middle missing, and you can see I cut right through. Now I also want to then just take and snip a little more, so we have a little space to work with. So I have two circles. They kind of look like the letter C almost, right? And you want identical circles, so as best you can cut. I know if you're using like corrugated cardboard, it can be a little tricky sometimes to cut that. So I think using like a box would be better, like for, you know, a cereal box or a cracker box or something like that. Might be a little easier to cut them more identical than cardboard. But you want to take your cardboard C's or donuts that are sort of missing a little piece of them, and we're going to take some yarn. Now I went with this yarn. I thought it matched my paper very nicely. You could certainly contrast something different, you know, if you wanted. I mean, it's your craft, so you know, use your creativity. This was the route I wanted to go. So I'm just gonna hold my yarn here and just wrap. And this is my tail. I'm just going to come in here and wrap around and wrap around and wrap over the tail. So, and the point of this is to secure the tail. We won't need to worry about knotting. And then we're just going to continue wrapping the whole entire C, and you can make it as puffy as you want. The more yarn and puffier, the bigger your pom-pom, the fluffier it'll be. So I'm going to continue wrapping this. You can see my tail is under these here. I'll continue wrapping this, and then we'll come back and you'll see what we do next. I finished wrapping. I didn't wrap too tight. I didn't wrap too loose. When I was done wrapping, I unwound it all and measured it so you would have a rough idea of how much yarn to use. Based off of the thickness of your yarn, you know, it would vary, obviously, but I used 17¼ yards with the yarn that I had selected. You will want to cut in between these two pieces of cardboard. We're going to cut along here, so you want to be careful not to wrap it too tight when you're wrapping, just for that reason alone, and not too loose, because you don't want a messy pom-pom. We're going to start by just cutting a snip of yarn here, so that after we're done cutting, we can we're going to then weave this yarn in between the cardboard and tie off our pom-pom. So let's go ahead and snip away here, and you want to use some really good scissors for this. If you don't have good scissors, it might be a little trickier, and you want to hold on to your cardboard so you don't lose your pom-pom either. Okay, you can see I've snipped all around. If you have any that didn't completely snip, you know, go ahead and fix those up. And we're just going to lay this down on the table, and I'm going to go ahead and put the yarn tie that I created and slip it through the cardboard to cinch up the yarn and bring it around through. Be careful at your opening, and you can see I've got the two ends together now. So I'm just going to tie it really tight because I don't want to lose my threads. And I'm going to knot it. There. And that's it. Now we can take this off and shake it out a little bit. Ooh, fluffy yarn. Okay, now you can see that's not perfect, right? We got to trim it up. So an interesting way you can trim, I mean, obviously you can just take your scissors and snip, snip, snip and trim, and there you go. You've got your pom-pom. But since we have these circles, you can take and push. We'll leave our tails hanging down. This is the tail that we tied with, and we can go ahead and put one circle on the top and one circle on the bottom and smush them together and make a pom-pom sandwich. Okay, and then you can use this as a guide to snip out what is sticking out. And we're gonna put the tails in the middle so they don't get snipped off. And we'll just take our scissors and snip away. All right, I've trimmed around as best I can. There might be some that I missed, and we'll catch them after. You can see I've made quite a mess here. Now we're going to remove these and go the other way. This is the part that wasn't trimmed where the ties are, and then the bottom here. So we're kind of going to turn it on its side now, like so. So the ties are out the side, and we're going to smush everything. We're going to smush it all down and put the cardboard on and line up the other one as well. Go ahead and trim some more here. All right, let's remove these and see how good we've done. We can shake it up. And you still may have a few stragglers. You can take your scissors and tidy it up if you need to. But yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. I will trim a few more. There, I'm satisfied with my pom-pom. I hope you're satisfied with yours when you've finished fluffing it out and shaking it up. And you can trim the ties off anytime you'd like. We won't need them for our finished project. And we're going to take our Mod Podge paper, and mine is all set. I'm sure you can see my 6x6 paper. There's not much to the edges. I am going to trim a little of it off just because it'll be easier to sand it if it's not a huge edge. And maybe you don't want to sand your edge. I thought I would like the look. So I'm going to see how that goes, and maybe I won't like it and I'll regret it. So I have a piece of sandpaper here somewhere. Here we go. I'm just kind of rubbing the sandpaper down, over and down, over and down, and getting rid of the extra. And this way there's no edges for like a paper cut if somebody was rubbing their hand across it. And it'll be great now. I'll put my second coat of Mod Podge on here, and that will seal it on. And I should have, I'll brush the paper, make sure there's no sand on it as well, no grit from the sandpaper, so that the Mod Podge does stick. All right, now I can Mod Podge this on, and that will seal it and keep it on my wood. And do the edges. We didn't really worry about the edges before, but because the paper is there now, we will want that to be sealed, because it's a good place for to bubble and peel. So there's the Mod Podge on the wood. The paper will be sealed fine once it's dry. It's still wet, but while it's wet, I thought I'd put a little extra down here at the bottom. I'm going to wrap my yarn on, and it would help seal it and maybe hold it in place while I'm wrapping. I'm going to have a tail here so that the yarn is in the back where I begin and I won't have to see it. And you can wrap as much or as little yarn as you'd like around the base of your hat. And you can, I'm not going to take this apart and measure, but you can estimate how much you need by the dimensions of your wood. My piece of wood happens to be 5.5 across, and it's about 3/4 in width. So yeah, just a easy way. And so, all right, that looks good. I'm just gonna snip that off, and I'm going to tuck it back here to hide it. You could even tie the two ends together if you're able to find it and reach it, which I can, so I'm going to give it a little pull and tie it. I made a knot. You can see my tails. I was able to knot them, and I'm just going to tuck the tails into the trim here. So you won't even see it, but it's the back of the hat anyway, right? And then I'm just going to glue my pom-pom on top. And doesn't that look like a hat? Okay, so let that sit for a minute while I snip off my tails here that I no longer need. So there's my hat. I can't wait to see your hats. So I hope you enjoyed today's project. I would love to see your pictures. Please send photos of your finished projects to me at info@killinglypl.org. And thanks so much for stopping in. Until next time, have a great day.